Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Kietzman. In on a Monday, a busy weekend. We've got some exclusive information just for listeners of KCMO Talk Radio coming right up concerning the Chiefs and NASCAR in negotiations with one another for a new dome stadium in Wyandotte County. More on that in just a moment. We've got the Schumer shutdown apparently ending. We'll get to that on the broadcast today. I'm okay with this. I'll just give you the headline here first before we get into our big story. I wasn't going to be okay with this because Republicans did cave on things. They're going to rehire the people they fired. That's dumb. They're going to pay everybody back pay. That's dumb. That's not how real businesses do it. Okay? I want our government to run like a real business. If you don't like working for the government and you're afraid every year they're going to shut you down and you're going to get furloughed and not get your back pay, then go find a job in the private sector. That's just my philosophy. That's what big corporations do all the time. They lay off auto workers for 6 weeks. They bring them back. They don't give them back pay. They send them home for 6 weeks. That's the real world. I want our government to operate like the real world. So don't tell me that the Republicans didn't cave on some things. These are minor things. But I'm happy because the one thing they didn't cave on was these ridiculous subsidies that they're now saying next year would be $400 billion enhanced subsidies for Obamacare. It was pushed through by Biden and the Democrats in 2021 during COVID. They just got to go away. They got to go away. And we need a national discussion that Obamacare is broken. It doesn't work. It was never going to work. And we need to blow it up and find something better. We'll get to all that on the show today and talk about the 8 Democrats that they've really got the far left of their party upset. That's kind of fun. We'll check in with Mark at the end of the show. A lot of good stuff there. A wild day in the NFL yesterday. And it affects the Kansas City Chiefs who did not play. But our big story with the Kansas City Chiefs is a story that I broke last night on my podcast, Kevin Kietzman Has Issues. It is up daily. The easiest way, if you're not a podcast listener, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can hear Kevin Kietzman Has Issues. But if you're not a podcast listener, and a lot of radio listeners are not podcast listeners, don't be afraid. Just open your browser and go to my website. It's kkhasissues.com. You can just hit a play button right there. It's like anything else you play on your computer. You don't have to download it. You don't have to have an app. You don't have to be on Spotify. You don't have to do any of that stuff. kkhasissues.com for the complete story that I put up last night that the Chiefs are in negotiations with NASCAR and the state of Kansas to acquire land just west of Kansas Speedway to potentially build a new dome stadium. Now, last week, you may recall, Pete Mundo had the information right here on KCMO that the plan, if they build a dome in Wyandotte County, is a 65,000-seat stadium with a roll-in, roll-out grass field. I'm hoping it has a translucent roof like the one they're building in Nashville. So when it's a day game, you're sitting there and the sun's coming in, you feel like you're outside and all those things. The days of building domes that are cold, dark places are over. Those places are horrible, trust me. Houston, Phoenix, I've been in many of these places. I've never been in Phoenix where the dome was open. You can go on a 72-degree day and they don't open the dome because the coaches all want it closed. So it's really kind of stupid. And the ones that don't have the ability to make you feel like you're outdoors, they're no fun. And so I'm not for that, but I don't think the Chiefs are going to do that. I think the two models are Buffalo and Tennessee if this is what they decide to do. So here's what we know. Multiple sources close to these negotiations say the Chiefs have not committed to building the stadium yet, but the details of the ownership or lease of the land need to be agreed upon before they make a final decision. So what the Chiefs are saying is we need to know what the land costs. We need to know what the taxes are. What they really want to do is they want to lease. I think what the Chiefs want to have happen here is for the state of Kansas, with their 70% they're kicking in from the sales tax revenue, to buy the land along maybe with Wyandotte County or whatever, from NASCAR. Okay, we're talking about it's a lot like the Truman Sports Complex. You're going to have the Speedway, a whole bunch of parking and amenities, and then the new Arrowhead is where they want to build it, right there where the Speedway is, in the same location. So they would have shared facilities. NASCAR obviously gets out of this paved parking, new parking lots, some amenities, bathrooms, things like that for all their tailgaters and their fans when they come to the Speedway. There is something in this for NASCAR other than the mother lode of selling the land, and it is a massive piece of land that they would be selling, and it's not cheap. The France family owns NASCAR. They're worth about $15 billion. They don't really need to sell this. They don't really need a football stadium there. They don't. It's not going to be some sweetheart discount deal. The France family has more money than Clark Hunt. Let's put it that way. One source that I have told me this is an unusual situation for the Chiefs in that they're not used to negotiating with somebody that's bigger than them. That they basically walk around Kansas City. They have politicians and business leaders in Kansas City in their back pocket in everything they do. And now it's the France family. And the France family is like, well, yeah, we can hold the land. We can sell it. We don't really care. Here's the price. That there's not really a negotiation. It is not an all-in partnership where they're going to build businesses together and share revenue and things like that. The Chiefs will build that on their own with their own star bonds. At this point, NASCAR has no plans to build anything new with star bonds, but that could change. Once an agreement is reached with the Chiefs, maybe NASCAR says we want to build some kart tracks or like this big Andretti thing that's going in Overland Park, indoor racing. There's all kinds of things that NASCAR could do with star bonds if they want to do it. They just have not committed that yet. So NASCAR owns a total of 880 acres. They came in the late 90s. They bought all the land. There was nothing there. The star bonds were developed. They built a speedway, and they bought all the land around it and said, we'll just be the landlord here and hold this land in perpetuity. They have sold off to other businesses, it sounds like somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 100 acres. You know some of these things, like the American Royals being built out there. Urban Outfitters built a big warehouse out there. There's some other things that are being built on the Speedway sign. They essentially own all the land from I-70 to State Avenue. It's all theirs. 880 acres. So they only use 300 for the racetrack. It's perfect for the Chiefs. The Chiefs have told NASCAR that they have another site in Kansas, but they didn't say it's in Wyandotte County, and they didn't say it's anywhere near this location. It is believed by most that the Chiefs are bluffing, that they may have another location, but they have no reason to go there. It's not a place they want to be. This is the preferred location. The Chiefs need to find out exactly what the land acquisition is. Will it be the state of Kansas buying it and then leasing it back to the Chiefs so there's no property tax on it, eliminating a huge hurdle for the football team, which is basically what they have in Jackson County now? The Chiefs want the sweetest deal possible. And in order for them to make a final decision, which sounds like it needs to have happened, Ty Masterson, the president of the Kansas Senate, was at a private event on Thursday night, a fundraiser for other politicians. But there is no such thing as a private event anymore in politics. Donald Trump has it right. You're always on the record. Multiple people from that event contacted me and said he said the same thing. Multiple times that night, Ty Masterson said he will have an announcement that's great for Kansas before December 15th, and they were all of the belief that he's talking about a new domed Arrowhead Stadium at the Speedway. And we now know this thing is way down the road. This has been going on for months, and nobody knew it. The Chiefs, NASCAR, and the state of Kansas trying to figure out the land ownership and how this is going to work for this new dome stadium. So it is on, and the Chiefs have not committed to Kansas. They have not, and they won't commit to Kansas until something is done on this land acquisition. It's a deciding piece. It's a huge piece, not just the cost, but the taxes going forward, what that would be. They don't want that. Every football team wants a $1 lease. That's what they want. We want to pay you $1 a year to lease this facility from the government entity. And the question is, can Kansas make that happen? Can they become basically the landlord, or Wyandotte County, as Jackson County has been in Missouri for so long? They've been the landlord at Kauffman Stadium and Arrowhead Stadium, and they sign a lease with the teams, sweetheart, cheap leases that keep them from having to pay property taxes. Again, free stuff for sports teams. NASCAR's been a complete success. They have all of the funding to have paid off early that facility, but they got an exemption as the first one in NASCAR to go ahead and take the full 30 years if they want, and for tax purposes and whatnot, they're doing that. It's essentially paid for. It worked, and it stimulated everything else out there, which has largely worked. Now the question will be, what kind of a deal do the Chiefs get? What can they get out of NASCAR? And this is a weird negotiation because you've heard me say on this show many times, the Chiefs are ball busters. They are business ball busters in Kansas City. They get their way with everyone. Anyone that does a deal with the Chiefs lost. I'll just say it. You lost. Hopefully you can sell enough of your product or whatever your relationship is with them. But for the most part, it's vanity. It's big car companies, big beers, big whatever, big gambling apps that you're probably never, like, they've got these giant signs for MGM betting out there at Arrowhead. They're not going to get enough people in Kansas City to go on BetMGM to make that work. What they've done is they've said, this thing is up on the Jumbotron on television with the most popular, highest rated team in America. That's about selling TV time. They're literally getting TV advertising by being in the stadium on the Jumbotron when the ball is snapped. I've seen it multiple times this year. So MGM's long game is something like that. But the Chiefs know all this. And then they work with their partners, their TV network partners, say, maybe make sure you get that MGM shot, the end zone shot from Mahomes, or every extra point or whatever. There it is on the Jumbotron. You see BetMGM up on the scoreboard. They know what they're doing. The Chiefs are really good at this. But so is the France family, and so is NASCAR. They've been great at it. The rumors floating around town that the Chiefs and NASCAR were talking initially were people in the racing community in Kansas City thinking the sky is falling in, NASCAR's pulling out, they're going to sell the whole thing, and it's over. That is not true. NASCAR is full speed ahead, double races Kansas City, and they are completely and totally all in and committed to staying at Kansas Speedway. So none of that is true. And to be honest, they've got a gold mine sitting there. When you own those 880 acres, in addition to the racing, France family made a pretty good move 25 years ago, buying all that land. And now they have an NFL team that wants to share the space. I've also got information that while the Chiefs, and Pete reported last week the request for proposal the Chiefs have put out for design of the stadium to multiple sports architect firms and engineering firms, it seems like, again, I've got multiple sources telling me the same thing, Populous is going to get the deal, regardless of whether it's the Dome or renovating Arrowhead again. This would be the third renovation of Arrowhead Stadium, essentially. Renovating Arrowhead again, it's in all likelihood going to be Populous. But that's what the Chiefs do. They tell NASCAR in the state of Kansas they've got another site, or they may want to go to Arrowhead. I think, let's cut to the chase, I think they're trying to get the best deal they can possibly get in Kansas, and that's what they're going to do. That's what I think. I don't know that. Nobody told me that. But why would you get to this point, this far down the road? You're negotiating a price for this land, all of the taxes around it, with the state and NASCAR. Get that done, which is what they want to get done. They say they'll make a decision after that's done. If they get that done, why would they then say, hey, thanks for all your trouble the last 3 years, we're staying in Missouri? There is no offer to stay in Missouri. No matter what anybody tells you, there is no offer. The state of Missouri has 50% they'll put into a project as long as a municipality or a county is on board for the other 20%. There is no offer from any city or county in Missouri for the Chiefs or the Royals. There is nothing. And I know for a fact Mark Donovan is sideways sick of dealing with people in Jackson County. It makes him sick to his stomach what's happened in Jackson County politics and what they've had to deal with the last few years. The Chiefs believe we're 3-time Super Bowl winners. We own this town. We should be able to do whatever we want, and we think you're silly over here in Jackson County. They think that. Now, maybe the new county executive changes that. Phil LaVota's in there. I'm sure he's talking to the Chiefs. Maybe they feel a lot better about Jackson County now than they did just a month ago. That's all possible. I can't report that to you. What I can report to you is there is no offer for money at Arrowhead. It doesn't exist at this point. It's going to require a vote. And that's a fact. 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957 is the number to call. If you'd like to chime in, we'll take your calls next. This is Uncanceled on KCMO.
From Overland Park to Parkville, it's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. It's great to have you with us on this Monday. And I know the audience is growing. We got a board full of new callers here that I don't think we've ever called in before. That's awesome. We want to welcome everybody that's ditched sports radio and all the liberal hosts in this town trying to follow these stories. Well, they won't. They just don't get me going. No, we thank you for leaving sports radio and coming here where you can get a combination of interesting things going on in the world, locally, sports, politics, anything. We love it. We think this hybrid format is terrific, and apparently the audience believes that too because the numbers are growing. We start today with Gerald in Kansas City. Good morning, Gerald. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, okay, a couple things here. They're dragging this out way too long. Like I know you've been talking about that, so I feel there's more in the works behind it than what they're telling us. But I do know this for a fact, that Lamar Hunt did everything in his power to not let that speedway go in back in 2000 because he knew it was going to take money away from his potential customers.
Well, he was wrong. He was wrong, wasn't he?
Well, we don't know yet.
What? It's a speedway's been there 25 years, dude. The Chiefs just won 3 Super Bowls. They've got the highest ticket price in the NFL. You're kidding me, right?
I get that, but I'm talking about he didn't want the speedway going in.
So what? He's dead. So what? What's your point?
Well, I think Clark Hunt owned it, but here's the deal. They got that ground for free. They're not going to give it up. They're going to stick it to him. It ain't going to go there. It ain't going to happen.
Okay, now that's what we were getting to. That's an excellent take. You believe the price will be too high, that NASCAR wants too much money for it, and this deal will follow through. That is an excellent take. Thank you. It has nothing to do with Lamar Hunt, I can promise you. Here is Bob in Linwood. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the show.
Hey, first off, there was a lot of buildings there, houses, there were some churches there, little school buildings, back before all that was developed. And, Wyandotte County came in, and they gave all those people, some of them really good payouts and some of them really crappy payouts. So there was stuff there at one time. It wasn't just Lake land. But going back to the long-term plan, this has been in the works for probably 12 years. Leavenworth County, Wyandotte County have all got together, and they both have renderings in the basements of their planning departments. And it shows Chief Stadium there on the southwest side of that speedway and 110th Street there or whatever. It's been in the works for 12 years.
Well, I don't know if it's been in the works. It's been in people's minds for 12 years. I would agree with that. I don't know that. Yes. The
renderings, the drawings, and the
sure.
I mean, it's all been planned there. They didn't plan for Urban Outfitters to go in there, which I think was the biggest mistake. Urban Outfitters shouldn't be there. That's a horrible location for it when you want to put in all this other sports and crap. But
well, I'm sure the price was right, and NASCAR took the money. So, who can blame them? They own 880 acres, and they only use 300 of it.
Yep. All right, have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, listen, I've seen renderings everywhere. I've seen renderings at the old Great Mall in Olathe. There's people in Olathe in their basements that have renderings. So, yes, people have talked about this for 12 years. But, look, I just feel like the last couple of weeks, I know this has dragged on. I think it's close. I think it's close because the Royals sending this survey out to me was them saying they've decided. And they're going to say, we took this survey, and here's what our fans said, and our fans agree this is where they want to go. Well, we don't know what their survey results will be. It's a private company. They don't have to tell us anything. I think it's a ruse. And I think if the Chiefs are negotiating land deals with the state of Kansas and NASCAR, they have proven to the state of Kansas and NASCAR that this is what they want, that the Arrowhead thing would be option number 2. Otherwise, you just wouldn't even be going through this. Here's Nate in Vassar. Welcome, Nate. How are you today?
Hey there. I'm a first-time caller. Love you guys' station. So as the last guy said, I've had a couple clients north of Tongi that said that they had some friends' family that owned farmland there, and the government used eminent domain to basically take it from them, and they did not want to sell.
Right. That was in the 90s.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know the full history of
it's the same thing everywhere. I mean, you could go to KCI and say that was eminent domain, too. They took land from somebody.
Sure. In any case, the other thing is I hope that you're wrong and they don't want to rent, because that, to me, says that they don't want to invest in the area.
Well, I think they do want to invest in the area. I think they don't want to pay property taxes.
Oh, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Neither do we, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you've got a $3 billion property, you don't want to pay taxes on that.
Absolutely. That was my 2 cents. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay, Nate, thanks for calling, man. You call me anytime, okay?
Absolutely.
Good
Thanks.
stuff, man. Great to hear from some new callers here on Uncanceled today. That's great. So our headline today is the Kansas City Chiefs and NASCAR negotiating with the state of Kansas on land acquisition for a new domed stadium at the Speedway, just west of the Speedway. The Chiefs will not make a decision until after a land agreement is agreed upon. If a land agreement is agreed upon, they have told the entities, okay, we'll let you know. We'll decide. This will be the deciding factor. Here's where we are. I can't imagine if you get what you want in your land deal and your property tax deal, you then say, hey, thanks for negotiating with us the last year on this. We're going to stay in Missouri. When there is no offer in Missouri, there really is no offer. They'll have to pass something in Jackson County, which the Chiefs, I'm sure, believe will pass because they're the Chiefs. But they got to know in the back of their minds there's some risk there. Uncanceled continues after the news. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, it's Vince Gallane's Catch My News Show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Kietzman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
I didn't start this fire. Here we go. It feels like it's getting close finally on these stadium issues. I think so. I think with the Royals survey that they put out a couple of weeks ago, I think they kind of know what they want to do here. The Chiefs have sort of been a let the Royals go first type deal, but they're up against a deadline here in Kansas that seems to actually be a real deadline this time. Ty Masterson's talked about that it needs to be done by a month from now, or it's just going to expire and be gone and not available to these teams if they're thinking about moving to Kansas. So I feel like this stuff is certainly closer than it has been. This Chief story that I'm reporting today is also coinciding with a couple of weeks ago, the governor of the state of Kansas. I'm just going to tell you, I don't know how else to say this. The Chiefs are absolute ball busters when it comes to business. They are absolutely capitalist, ruthless. God bless them, love them. Everything you'd like to think in a giant conservative capitalist business, they are it. And they will leverage their popularity against anything you do or anybody that gets in their way. They will do that. So I'm thinking back now to a couple of weeks ago when Laura Kelly said, we will not get into some sort of a bidding war on this. I can only imagine how difficult the negotiations are over this land. The Chiefs demanding that Kansas step up and do this. NASCAR demanding they get full price for it. I can't even imagine how ugly this thing is. That's the only way I could describe it. It's everybody thinks they're the big fish. The governor probably thinks she's the most powerful person. Clark Hunt thinks he's the most powerful person, and Tim France believes he's the most powerful person in this thing. I can't even imagine. Crazy. All right, back to the phones we go, and this is Steve in Wyandotte County. Hi, Steve. What's up?
Hey, as a guy who was born and raised in Wyandotte County, the Hutt family would be fools to get in bed with the unified government. They can't even build an American Royal out there.
Okay,
and where's the money supposed to come from? Is my tax dollars going to go into pockets of NASCAR family billionaires?
I can answer both questions. First and foremost, I have multiple sources on this story, and not one of them mentioned any involvement with Wyandotte County.
Okay.
But
it's going
so
in Wyandotte
the Chiefs
County.
are not working with Wyandotte County. They're working with the state of Kansas and the France family. So, yes, but if there's no property taxes because they're leasing, then they're not dealing with Wyandotte County. They want to deal with the state of Kansas. They clearly don't want to deal with Wyandotte County. And maybe that holds the whole thing up, and maybe that blows the whole thing up. So that's number one. Number two, everything gets paid for through sales tax revenue of the new facilities. They will draw a star bond district, and all of the sales taxes within that district will pay for everything. It will not be your money unless you go to a game. If you go to a game, you buy a ticket, you buy a hot dog, you buy a beer, whatever, you're going to pay a sales tax on that. That will build the stadium.
I believe it when I see it, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks. All right. Thank you. Well, they've done it with the other things there. They did it with Sporting Kansas City built a stadium with sales tax revenue. The Speedway built a speedway with sales tax revenue. The Monarchs built a stadium with sales tax revenue. Nebraska Furniture Mart, Bass Pro, the Legends Outlets, Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville,
Great Wolf Lodge,
Hollywood Casino. We can go on and on and on.
Oh, yeah.
They all built it with sales tax revenue. So we have 25 years of mostly successes there, of things that have worked. In Kansas, now for a lot of these businesses that have paid off, whatever their incentive was is paid off, long gone. It's generating revenue every day for the state of Kansas that would not have been there. There would not have been a Speedway. There would not have been a Sporting Kansas City Park. There would not have been, don't laugh, Nebraska Furniture Mart. I can't even imagine how much money how much sales tax is involved in that joint. The casino, Margaritaville, nope. Minor League Baseball, nope. None of it would be there if not for these same star bonds that have largely been successful and created a pretty vibrant area that has become part of our quality of life in Kansas City. Not everybody goes there. Not everybody uses it, but the people that do like it. A lot of people love the Monarchs. A lot of people love sporting. A lot of people love the races. A lot of people like to play blackjack. A lot of people like a resort pool over at Jimmy Buffett's. They drew this thing. There's car dealerships in this thing. I mean, what's happened there, it's almost like what's the one they call in Independence, the Miracle Mile, where all the car dealers are lined up on Nolan Road. There's car dealers everywhere out there. Do you know what kind of taxes you're talking about from that? There weren't any car dealerships there 15 years ago. Nobody was going to build a brand new Toyota dealership in Wyandotte County. That's the most ludicrous thing ever. I grew up in this town. I'm old enough to remember. You made fun of it. No, there's nothing in Wyandotte County. There's no reason to go there. Now there's plenty of reasons to go there. I was just there last week. Miss Jessica was picking out a rug at Nebraska Furniture Mart. That's an exciting trip for a husband, let me tell you. That's a life well lived. When you get the opportunity to drive your wife and your dog to Nebraska Furniture Mart and let her pick out a rug, you are living the high life, man. But it's what we do. They've got the most rugs to pick from. So that's where she goes. No, I get it. I have a couple of issues that bother me about Kansas City. One of them is pretty much gone, but I hated it forever. We had this chip on our shoulder. You know, we were sick of being little brother to St. Louis, flyover country, all this other stuff. The Chiefs have erased that for us. These Super Bowls, this last decade of football, Ted Lasso, you know, all these celebrities that are from Kansas City now, we're a cool place. Most people around America think of Kansas City as one of the better places. I guarantee you, if you started polling people around America, they call it in popularity like a Q rating for people or places or whatever. Kansas City's rating would be much higher today than it was a decade ago. So I don't think we have that chip on our shoulder like we used to. But there is one thing about us in this community that we cannot, the majority of us cannot shake. I shook it a long time ago. That doesn't make me better, and it doesn't make me right or wrong. Okay? But here's what I know. I've got family members. I've got friends. I got all kinds of people I've known my entire life here in Kansas City. And the majority of them are the same way. We can't build something new. We can't. Dude, a dome stadium and a Super Bowl, we're not worthy of that in Kansas City. That's not going to work. How am I going to get screwed on this deal and pay for this? Arrowhead's perfectly fine. We don't need it. Here's where the Royals did better than the Chiefs. There's only one area in this whole thing where the Royals did better than the Chiefs. 4 years ago, the Royals said, we are done with Kauffman Stadium. They just put it out there. It's over. Don't talk to us about the convenience and the parking and all this. It's done. We are out of Kauffman Stadium. Now, that could be a new stadium in Kansas City. They didn't say this out loud, but the implication was it could also be somewhere else, which is not the case. The Royals are going to stay here. They're going to have a new building. You know what I don't get? I don't get phone calls or emails from people complaining about that anymore. I don't hear people saying they don't need a new stadium. Kauffman Stadium's good. It's not on the table. Once you wipe that out, it goes away. Folks, let's go back 2 years. If I were working here at KCMO Talk Radio and I opened the phone lines and said, what do you think about this airport project? Should they be doing this new terminal or not? I got 5 lines here. All 5 people would be, this is the dumbest thing ever. We have an iconic airport. It's 3 terminals. It was revolutionary in the 70s when we opened it. It's the greatest thing ever. They used to say it about Kemper Arena. It's iconic. Look, the steel, it's what an architectural marvel. The support steel is on the outside of the building. What a brilliant thing. This is the greatest arena ever. Well, how do those old terminals and Kemper Arena look now compared to the new terminal and T-Mobile Center? Kansas City can't get out of its way thinking what we have is good enough. Now, there's a Midwestern sensibility to that. I don't need a new car. I don't need a new house. I don't need this new. I'm good. I'm taking care of me. I got my family taken care of. I tuck money away. I'm doing all the right things. I can't tell you how much I respect that kind of an attitude. That is absolutely the way to live, within your means and not always jonesing to keep up with the Joneses. Seriously, it's a compliment. But I'm starting to get that here. Oh, we had a new stadium at the Speedway. Like we don't deserve it, or we can't afford it, or somehow you're going to get screwed. If you want to call me and say, I owned a piece of land that was taken by eminent domain, and they didn't pay me enough when they built this area out here at I-70 and 435 in Wyandotte County, then maybe you got screwed. But that's it. I don't know who else got screwed. You don't have to go there. If you live in Columbia and you've never been to the Legends and you never want to go there, great. That's up to you. You didn't put a nickel into the thing. But people come from all over the Midwest to go to the races. They're going to build a resort hotel at the casino. People are going to come from all over the place to stay there. spend the night, spend their money, more taxes, gamble, bet on sports, do whatever. People choose to do that, and they don't all live in Wyandotte County. In fact, I'd be willing to bet the overwhelming majority of money spent in that entire area, I'll bet not 15, 20% of it is from Wyandotte County. It is all just new money and good things for Wyandotte County and the state of Kansas. It's all brand new. There was nothing there. If you've lived here a long time, you remember there was nothing. Wyandotte County was not a thing. It was almost like the butt of jokes. And yes, the gentleman just called in and said the Wyandotte County government's no better than it's ever been. The Chiefs don't want to deal with them. I'm telling you, my sources are telling me the Chiefs are dealing with the state and NASCAR. I've not heard one person say, well, there's this hang-up in Wyandotte County. I've not heard that. Yes, Wyandotte County is going to be on the hook for some things. There's policing and all those things. The Chiefs will need a relationship with Wyandotte County. I've heard nobody say that there's any kind of a vote coming or a 1% income tax, which had been floated out there a year ago. Oh, Wyandotte County might have to do an income tax of 1% to raise the revenue to police the area for the Chiefs and do all the things that will come with these big game days and the expense of it. But I'm not hearing that now. I'm not hearing that from anybody. That doesn't mean there won't be something down the road. And maybe, just maybe, the Chiefs are like this. You know what? Wyandotte County is such a small fish in this thing. We'll deal with that later. We got to get the big part done if we're going to make this move, and we'll deal with Wyandotte County. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Maybe that's what it is. I can't tell you that. But I'm not hearing anybody really talk hardly at all about Wyandotte County or any involvement with Wyandotte County. So that's kind of where we are. It's been a long, long, fascinating story for years now in Kansas City. And I've been pretty open about this. I can't tell you where they're going. I'm not telling you this is done. My head, not my gut, my head tells me the Chiefs wouldn't be this far down the road negotiating with NASCAR in Kansas on purchasing the land if this isn't their preferred site. If this wasn't their preferred thing, why are they doing this? Wouldn't you just say, nah, we're out on that. We're staying at, we'll work on a vote maybe next year sometime with Jackson County, see if we can rub a couple of nickels together and put some new paint on Arrowhead Stadium again. Maybe that, but I don't know why they'd be this far down the road. It seems to me this is their preference, or they wouldn't be going through all this. Here's Greg in Overland Park. He's got some thoughts. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Kevin. Number one, I was out in Utah. You talked about how Kansas City's reputation going on. I met these guys, they're right out from Duck Dynasty. I mean, they're like in a four-wheel buggy, out by the lake. They're living on the land. And they go, hey, where are you from? I said, I'm Kansas City. They go, oh, cool, the Chiefs. Those guys are so awesome. So how it just kind of blew me away.
No, it's unbelievable. And sometimes, though, they don't like the Chiefs. They'll say, oh, gosh, I hate them. But then they kind of give you a little smile and a wink like, but Kansas City's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, no, these guys, it's two women and two guys. I'm going to tell you, they were like living off the land out there. And you kind of like the Zion and that whole area where you were at not too long ago. It was
gorgeous.
Pretty funny. Number two, people tend to think small around here. I don't get it. I grew up in Chicago, but you're right. Everybody likes to hold on to what they know. Like, man, this airport's so great. We can park right across the street and walk across the street and be at the gate, blah, blah, blah. And sure, that was like one little issue about it, but the rest sucked. And so, now we have the new airport, and everybody's like, wow, this is amazing. So you're right. People tend to, grasp and hold on to what they have and what they know, and they don't want to think new. Now, that's the second point that you already made. But the other thing is, I thought, now that you're communicating this issue, do you think that people like Ted Kehoe or Governor Kehoe in Missouri and those people in Missouri are going, we got to step up our game?
Kehoe's done his part. They got a special session. They got it passed. But you got to have a dance partner. Jackson County is the one that's going to have to pass something for the Chiefs. Do you think the Chiefs really – I mean, the Chiefs probably think they can pass anything on their own without the Royals dragging them around like an anchor. But do you want to run that risk?
No. And the thing is, I heard about the Chiefs doing a survey, and a lot of their season ticket holders we love Arrowhead. Okay, yeah, Arrowhead's great, but the stadium doesn't win the games. And Pete Mendo even said, I kind of like the way it is. And I'm like, okay, the stadium's good, but you can put the same team in a new stadium. They're going to be just as good. So if anybody thinks that the reason why the Chiefs are good is because of Arrowhead, this stadium, you can translate that and transfer that to a new place. And I'm totally with you. I think the other opportunities are way better in Kansas. You can have a Super Bowl. Eventually, you can have some multiple Final Fours. I mean, with the Dome, there's so many more benefits there. So that's my point of view.
I agree. And if you want the sports component of this, Greg, you're going to love this. Patrick Mahomes' record as a starting quarterback is 2 games, his whole career, 2 games better at home than on the road. That's it. Over 9 years, he's 2 games better at home than he is on the road. Okay. Arrowhead Magic? Hey, I love Arrowhead, man. I know this. Yes?
Oh, he's never lost a regular season game in the Dome.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
We like that.
That's fantastic. So here's what I know. Since T-Mobile Center was built, I've never heard one person say we should have stayed at Kemper. And since the new airport terminal opened, I've not heard one person that's been there say we should have stayed in the old terminals. This is how it works. Nobody's going to say, oh, they should have stayed at Kauffman Stadium. And folks, this sounds outrageous in this town because everybody's hanging on. Nobody, when they build, if and when they build a new stadium in Kansas, nobody is going to say a year after it opens, we should have stayed at Arrowhead. I promise you. The people that go to the games are going to be blown away with their experience there, how much better it is, and they're going to have the same tailgating opportunities. There is massive parking out there at the Speedway. They're going to replicate all the tailgate things that Kansas City is so famous for. It could absolutely blow you away. This could be so good if and when it's done right, and nobody will say we should have stayed at Arrowhead. We'll remember Arrowhead. You know, my dad would tell me he remembered Old Municipal Stadium, and people didn't want to build Kauffman Stadium for the Royals. Well, the Chiefs and Royals are in one stadium. Why would we build 2 new stadiums? That's what they said in the 60s. We've lost our mind. What are we doing here? We have a stadium that they both play in. Why would we build 2 new? Because it's what you do. Uncanceled continues on KCMO.
from Smithville to Shawnee Mission. It's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
I think we're going to have to change our dead stone cold lock picks of the week to just mark picking going forward. We went 1-1 as a team, but that means I went 0-1. Nice work on the Oregon under, buddy.
Thank you. I looked at the weather report. That's going to help me going forward.
It helped. There was a safety to start that game, wasn't there? Like, the second there's a safety in a game, you know it's a low-scoring game.
Yep.
You just know it's going to be a low-scoring game. What'd you make of the NFL yesterday? Who do you think is the better team between the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Colts in the AFC? Which one is a more serious threat to the Chiefs?
Probably the Patriots.
They're all 8-2 at this point? Is that right? All three are 8-2?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
The Broncos are just fraudulent to me. I don't know. They almost lost to the Raiders at home last week. I don't know.
And the Bills go down in a hard way.
Yeah.
But you know what? They won their Super Bowl the week before, so good for them. Right?
They were amped for that Chiefs game and not so much for the Dolphins.
It's a crazy league. There was no way they were going to lose to the Chiefs, and then they just thought, well, this will be easy. We'll go to Miami and take it. No.
Nope.
Doesn't work like that in this league. Got to be ready every time. How about this? Dateline, South Carolina. Brittany Livingston is now known as Gator Girl in South Carolina. 4 months after giving birth to a baby, her and her husband at 3 a.m. last week wrestled in a 12-foot gator that weighed 597 pounds.
Wow.
It took them 5 years to get their permit to go get one. They have a hunting season. They have to be a certain length, I guess. You have to wrestle it in before you can humanely shoot it in the head.
All right.
Which they did. They drove it around for like a week. They went to McDonald's with it. The whole staff came out. It's in the back of their truck. Such a South Carolina thing.
Amazing.
Way to go, Brittany. Gator Girl. Bagged a big one. 597-pound gator. The Vince Show is coming up next. Thanks for listening to Uncanceled on KCMO.